Okay, so today we're talking about the TikTok Talkity Talk Tuesday talk ban. Wow, that's gonna be rough. Today's Taco Tuesday, and we're gonna be talking about the TikTok ban on Taco Tuesday and how Christian creators should respond. I'm gonna leave up my notes on the side here because I always do that. That way, if you're following along or you're visually you'd like it better that way, then I'm more than happy to just leave it there for you. Yeah, that's about as tight as I can get it. As big as I can get it for you. All right. So responding to the TikTok ban as Christian content creators, the it's so interesting when you're a Christian content creator trying to figure out how to be a content creator because a lot of it is goes against our natural instincts as believers, right? So like we know that to be great in God's kingdom, be a servant of all. Content creation is how can I get myself out there and have people follow me, right? The if you want to be a good Christian, you want to promote others and serve others and bring others up and bolster others and let other people encourage others and lift them up. And then content creation seems to be how can I get the attention of others so other people can see how great I am and so that they can follow what I do so they can, share me with other people. It's so difficult to navigate this idea of how to be a good content creator and a Christian content creator at the same time. I think it is maneuverable, it is possible, but I think that the temptations are myriad, right? Like you go and you look online on YouTube and you look for advice, and like 99% of the advice is secular, right? And 99% of the advice is it kind of sounds good, but it's also not quite what we should be doing. It's also something that we should be cautious about, but we should be learning from. Like it's really not easy. So what I want to do is I'm going to try to narrow it down to how can we process this issue of the TikTok ban in the US and Canada or other places in the world, and how should we respond to it? I know that there are a lot of different creators that are listening. Some of you are shorts, some of you are podcasts, some of you are doing Instagram pictures, some are doing YouTube videos, some are live streams. But everybody who's part of all of those things has each been told to diversify your content to different platforms, and chances are you are on TikTok. Chances I am on TikTok. I don't make TikToks necessarily. I do shorts. I take stuff from my stream and I make shorts, and some of them go on to TikTok. And so, but I wouldn't call myself a TikToker because TikTok is its own algorithm, its own culture, its own kind of thing that you do in order to be a successful TikToker. In the same way that to be a good YouTuber is going to be different than if you want to grow on LinkedIn, if you want to grow on, X, or if you want to go on whatever else. Each one has its own kind of culture, and so I come from the perspective of I'm not a TikToker. I have someone who has been in full-time content creation for like almost 4 years now, fully funded like I don't do anything else other than this. Yes, I don't have a million followers, but chances are you don't either. And I've been able to do this for a while. I feel like I've got a bit of a handle on how this should go. Plus, I was a pastor for a long time, so I understand the biblical perspective on stuff. So I've thought this through a little bit, and hopefully it'll help you too. If you have questions, by all means, leave a comment or put something in the chat or whatever, and we'll try to talk along with what's going on here to keep it, going back and forth. So we're going to talk about the TikTok issue, what's happening, how Christian creators like us should respond with clarity, wisdom, and practicality. So let's understand the TikTok issue up front. I think it's important for us to kind of get our heads wrapped around what's actually happening. So concerned about TikTok's data collection practices started under President Trump in 2020. Okay. These concerns were later echoed by President Biden, leading to a bipartisan effort to address national security risks. Investigations revealed that TikTok collects extensive user data, including precise location information, private messages, viewing habits, device details. The issue? TikTok's parent company ByteDance is based in China, and there's evidence that the Chinese government has accessed user data. This raises significant privacy and security concerns, not just for creators, but for everyone using the app. Okay? So what I want to kind of pull out from that is to say, notice that it was started by Trump, and regardless of what you think of Trump, if you're a conservative and you're like, "Hey, Trump," or you are not a conservative and you're like, that's the devil, It was also affirmed by Biden, who is the exact opposite of that. In Canada, Justin Trudeau's government, who is even more liberal and whatever that anyone else, they also banned it. Like, it's actually banned technically in Canada. You're not supposed to use it. They'd prefer you didn't use it, but they haven't like stopped everybody. They've just said if you're a government worker, if you're whatever, you can't use it on your phone and you can't use it on your device. But for citizens, we'd rather you didn't, please, is basically what that comes down to. And so if regardless of where you're at on the political spectrum, if it's, like you've got these hyper conservative MAGA crazies and you've got the hyper liberal, Biden Democrat crazies, and you got the Justin Trudeau liberals, everybody, they're all going, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know about this. European Union, you've got all sorts of places that are saying the same thing. This is a concern. It's a concern. And it's doing things they shouldn't do. It's doing things that are not in its terms and conditions. It's being sent to a country that does not necessarily hold the interests of our country, and have been doing shady stuff, right? And if you're like, well, you can't trust whoever, well, the opposite side says it too. Government actions globally. The United States has banned TikTok on government devices, with further legislation potentially leading to a nationwide ban. So like if you're an army person or if you're working for the government or whatever, you can't have it. It's just like you're not allowed to have it on your device because it is a security risk. Canada has done the same for government issued devices, citing security risks. If you look it up, it's technically banned in Canada, but it's not like officially banned. But if you're anywhere near anything sensitive, you are definitely not going to be you're not allowed to have it. India banned TikTok outright in 2020 due to data privacy concerns. So India, European Union suspended TikTok on corporate devices, citing similar fears. Like in Canada, they actually kicked ByteDance out of Toronto and Vancouver. Just, you can't have businesses here, right? It's pretty serious. Australia has also implemented bans. Like, it is not this one-sided, just this one little group of people off to the side or some kooky government thing. It is a lot of places in the world that have looked at TikTok and went, we have concerns, and so therefore we should address this thing regardless of what people think. Governments worldwide are increasingly skeptical about the platform's safety and long-term viability. If you look at the way that TikTokers seem to be responding, they're responding what would be naturally. Like, they're responding, I believe most of them are non-Christian, I would say. And they're responding with basically, you can't take this away from me. What about my freedom? What about freedom of speech? I've got my whole platform on here. I've got my whole life on here. And so they're trying to save their income. They're trying to save their favorite platform. They're trying to save what they do and where they get their affirmation, where they get their influence, where they get their, what they poured so much of their life into. And if TikTok shuts down, it's not only an inconvenience for them, but it's like a massive lifestyle change. Because when they look out into the world, whether it be to YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or to, Twitter or whatever, like any of the other places, it's not like TikTok. They've worked really hard to be a TikToker. But they're doing it to the place of kind of living in this sense of denial, living in this sense of it's not that serious. You can't trust the government. You can't trust anybody in the world. The only one, the only one you can trust is the giant, mega national corporation in China and Chinese government. Those are the ones you can believe. In fact, in China, you can't use TikTok, right? Like they have a different kind of version, and it's not even allowed to be used there. Like, if you go look that up, feel free to fact check me, but they have some kind of special rule even there. Like, a lot of the influencers are lying about what's happening, and a lot of them just want to keep their platform. So be careful. One thing that people are doing right now is they are moving on to a place called RedNote. RedNote, which is another app from China. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard because, ByteDance, Chinese company, and they, TikTok, Chinese app, they're leaving. And so the solution that these people seem to be having is running over to another Chinese social media platform, right? And so they're doing that. If you're considering moving to RedNote, like as a Christian content creator, might I suggest that if you are doing that right now, it is hasty. It feels spiteful or foolish or like why would you go and take a lateral move towards something that is going to be potentially equally problematic that doesn't have a better, it's not TikTok. It's kind of like Pinterest meets, Reels meets, I don't know, Etsy or something like that. Like this, it's not TikTok. It just seems to me that there's a bunch of people out there that are like, well, stick it to the man. I'm going to go do another Chinese company. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why people would do that. I caution against it. Ukulele says the problem is new apps come out every day and others will have these same problems. TikTok became big, so it caught their attention. It not only became big, but the stuff it was doing in the background and the stuff it was caught doing, supposedly was substantial. Yes, there are other security issues on, both Google and on iPhones. There's a lot of security issues through websites. It's not alone. It's just if you have 100 million people in your 350 million population country, like that's a third of the people are all walking around with this thing in their pocket. And it's a security issue. It's not some small obscure thing. It is a national issue. So RedNote's Chinese owned, potentially subject to the same risks and ban as TikTok. In fact, like if you moved over there right now and you decided to pour your effort into RedNote, you you could easily lose that platform too for the exact same reasons. It'd be foolishness to do that. Migrating out of frustration and fear often leads to wasting time on unstable platforms. We've all done it. Everybody's done it. You hear about this thing that kicks off, this website. Let's go and make, we got to make sure we're there and make sure that we have our username set aside, and we're going to pour some stuff in there, and then it ultimately just disappears, and then all that was wasted effort. Instead of jumping on something trendy, let's focus on platforms that are better established, safer, or more aligned with long-term impact, like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, which you're probably already posting to already. There are, and there will be, more secure versions coming along, like the way that Mastodon and Blue Sky are for Twitter's change. Like Twitter changed, had a big issue, and then because of all the security and all the whatever political stuff, you have these other programmers, other companies creating more secure, more centralized, more not centralized, more diversified, user-oriented pieces of software, like platforms. Blue Sky is a great example. Mastodon's a great example. There will be that coming. I don't know what or when, but it will be coming for for TikTok something. There'll be something out there. So I would say don't jump onto RedNote right now. I think it's a really foolish idea. From one Chinese platform to another to stick it to the man. How do they not realize China is the man? And really very much so. They really are. They really are the man. There's no the man bigger than China in the world. I want to talk about biblical perspectives a little bit. So, like, not just talking about wisdom or things that I think are my own opinion. Let's kind of talk about the way that Scripture would address these sorts of issues. So, feel free to interrupt with a question or throw one out. Biblical responsibility of influencers. So James 3:1 says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness." Luke 12 says, "Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him to whom they entrust much, they will demand the more." With great power comes great responsibility, is what they're trying to say. And if you are an influencer, and if you have a platform, and if you have people that are listening to you, and you are trying to build that, and on TikTok, if you have some level of success on there, you as a Christian, you as an influencer, you as a teacher, or you to whom much was given, have a responsibility to do with that the best you can for the people that you are serving, that you are influencing. It's not about you, right? It's not about you. I'm going to keep saying that. When you make content, when you are planning what you're going to be doing, when you pick a platform, it's not how can I grow and how can I do and what should I do and what's the best content that I would make me grow. It's who did God create me to be? Who is the audience God has placed before me? What is the message God wants me to give them? And how can I do that in a way that is the most excellent, most creative, best way that honors him and makes good content for them? So therefore, your decision of what to do with TikTok isn't simply jumping to another place or jumping to another platform or trying to figure out and replicate and whatever. It's asking the question, which one serves the people that I'm trying to serve best? Which one allows me to communicate what I want to communicate best that God created? Which one shows the creativity that God has given me the best? It's not simply about jumping onto another trend. You have a responsibility to the people that you are influencing to make sure that you carry them well, that you instruct them well, that you serve them well. And that includes how you address this concern, right? How you talk about the TikTok ban, how you talk about the all the other platforms. So you are an influencer and God will hold you to a higher account than others because you have chosen to stand in front of people. It is a recognize that it's not just about you and it's not just you in your basement and it's had nothing to do with just you and whoever wants to watch you. It's not my fault if they want to watch. You do have a higher responsibility than others. We're accountable for how we use our platforms and the impact they have on others. Those who guide others, whether traditional teachers or modern influencers, bear significant responsibility for their words and actions. As influencers, our platforms can shape behaviors and beliefs, aligning with the biblical role of a teacher. Therefore, we must approach our influence with humility and a commitment to truth, recognizing the weight of our responsibility towards those that listen to us. And I don't want to belabor the point, except to say, I want you to make sure that as you're thinking through this TikTok thing, that you realize that the fact that you have a platform means you have a responsibility to do this carefully, biblically, godly, and in service to others. Okay, it's you should try to navigate this correctly and the most moral way possible. Number 2, influencing the influencers. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. These verses highlight how those who we surround ourselves with can significantly impact our character and decisions. Be careful who you get advice from, what trends you jump on, who you let govern what you do with your platform. Get good counsel. Talk to people who are at your level. Get information from a broad amount of sources before making the choice of what to do here. The point is to impress the fact that you should be surrounding yourself not only with a plethora of information, lots of different sources to find out what's true, but also to do this in such a way that the people that you are listening to, you take with a grain of salt. The people that you are listening to, you're like, I want to make sure that these guys are telling the truth too. Your natural influence or your natural inclination is going to be towards believing the people that are saying what you want to hear, right? Oh, they won't ban TikTok. You know, how could they do that? It's too big. It won't happen. Don't worry about it. And so you do nothing. Or everybody who wants to ban TikTok is evil. They're taking away your right to free speech. You know, they're going against the Constitution. It's all, whatever. And that's not true either. On the other side, right? TikTok is evil. TikTok is bad. You know, nothing good ever happened on TikTok. You should just delete social media, and everything about that is bad too. Why are you a creator, right? There are both sides of this are going to be extremes. So make sure that as you walk it through this situation, you're walking with wise people. You're walking with people who have experience. You're walking with people who are seeking the best for others, for you, for what God wants, and listening to lots of different platforms. Don't just sit on Reddit. Don't just sit on whatever your favorite news thing is. Don't just sit there and read on TikTok. Don't only listen to your favorite creators. Like, see if you can find other places, because they're going to influence your decision, potentially influence your future, and certainly influence your audience. Obeying ruling authorities. This is one nobody wants to hear, but you got to say, from a biblical perspective, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. Feel free to read the rest of that section. It's being a content creator has a sense of rebelliousness and showcases the power of individualism. It just comes with the territory, right? If you are going to be a content creator, especially a Christian content creator, you've had to fight for that, because there have been people in your life, whether it be your parents or your pastor or your teacher or your friends or whoever else, that you felt you had to fight against in order to be a content creator. You have to fight against the system, the algorithm, all the rest of that stuff. You have to champion yourself and recognize yourself as a creator and you as a creative and go, I have value. Like, you have a lot of individualism and a sense of rebelliousness, even as a Christian content creator, and I appreciate that. I really do. Like, I get it. Like, when I was going through and starting this thing, I would go and talk to churches and my other pastors and denominational leaders that I've been working with for a decade, and them just simply going, "I don't get what you do, and I don't want what you do, and I don't like what you do," and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Like, it's just like, okay, fine. So there is this sense of rebelliousness, this sense of, it's me versus the world, just me and God. And that's one of the reasons that we created Taco, was because there were so many Christian content creators who had no help, no discipleship, no pastor, no training, no nothing. They were just on their own. And so we wanted to gather those people together and train them and help them and unite them and network them so that they can be better than a better version of what God created them to be. However, in that rebelliousness, in that individualism, in that, we are special and content creation matters and Christian content creation is powerful. As Christians, we are called to obey the laws and the governments that God has placed over us, unless they demand we disobey God, right? There are pastors, elders that we are supposed to be submitting to, parents that we are to be submitting to, and the government that has laws that is telling you to do things that, unless it says to disobey God, you are told in Scripture to obey the law. And so, if they do ban TikTok, then you jumping onto a VPN, you working around the system, you trying to figure out how you can game it so that you can continue on there and disobey the law, it's morally wrong. You're sinning, right? In the same way that if you decide you don't care about the copyright laws, you're just going to skirt them and play music, whatever you want, and who cares? It's all Christian stuff. You're still sinning. In the same way that you steal other people's content, and you just say, "Well, I'm just putting my own spin on it," whatever, like you're still sinning. Like, if you have been told by the government, don't use TikTok, regardless of how much it sucks and regardless of how hard it is, find somewhere else to go, because you have a biblical requirement, a Christian requirement, a spiritual, God-given order to respect and be subject to the governing authorities. I want to take a minute in this next section here to talk about the biblical view of skepticism, because it's something that I think a lot of Christians really struggle with, and I think a lot of people just have. We especially in this day and age where you have so many people lying. The news is no longer the news. As soon as the news became a place where it was about the money and the advertising and the clicks and all the rest of that stuff, no longer was it about here's the truth. It was about how many people can we get to listen? How many eyeballs can we put on this thing? The Weather Channel stopped being the Weather Channel, and now it's the get everybody excited about every single thing that's happening in the weather so that they all watch us all the time channel, right? Then the news isn't just here's what's happening in the world channel. It is, you have to watch us and you have to follow us because everything we say is super urgent and it could destroy you and it could change the world, and it's all super important to watch us. We don't care what we say as long as you keep watching, right? So we live in this world that is awash with lies, clickbait online. We don't know what's true. We've been told all the way through school and all the way through training and all the way through everything, you can't trust your teachers, you can't trust your parents, you can't trust religion, you can't trust the corporations, you can't trust, anything online. Like, just there's no one you can trust. And so we live as skeptics, right? Everybody's got conspiracies, everybody's got distrust. In fact, it's very rare for a Christian to actually say, this is the person I always believe. This is the person that I really trust. When they speak, I listen. When they say something, I listen, because I believe that they have earned my trust enough that even if it goes against my instinct, or even if it goes against what I think is right, or even if it goes my understanding, I'm gonna go with what they say, or I'm gonna weigh their opinion much more than others. Most people just live in the existence of everything is skeptical, can't trust nobody. I can only trust myself and my own conscience and what I think the Bible says. That isn't a great way to live. So we're gonna talk about skepticism a little bit. So behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. This is the first scripture that popped into my brain. And that essentially comes down to when you step out into the world as believers in Jesus, it is a rough place. You got a lot of people out there that are wolves in sheep's clothing. You know, people who look good, they just want to eat you alive. So when you're out there, be wise as serpents. In other words, you know, make sure you're being crafty, make sure you're being intelligent, make sure you're being, you know, as, you know, sneaky within the rules as you can, that kind of thing. But innocent as doves means that you're not breaking morality. You're not doing things sinfully. You're not, you know, affecting your conscience or someone else's conscience. Find that middle ground between super smart, super wise, super crafty, super intelligent, you know, really doing things as best you can, as much as you can, and also not breaking the rules. Find that middle ground. God calls us to be discerning. Healthy skepticism helps us avoid deception, but there's a line where skepticism turns into cynicism, conspiracy thinking, isolation, opening yourself to being manipulated. Constant distrust can isolate us from community and truth. Test everything, hold what is good, reject what is evil, but don't let distrust make you lose sight of God's sovereignty and truth, right? That there is a danger, a heart danger, a life danger, a soul danger of living as a skeptic, right? It is important, you know, healthy skepticism, good, but recognize that the more cynicism you have, the more conspiracies that you believe, the more places that you can't trust, the more isolated you'll be, right? The more isolated you'll be. Suddenly, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust the church, and I can't trust the pastor, and I can't trust the teachers, and I can't trust the law, and I can't trust the government, and I can't trust the TV, and I can't trust the internet, and it's just me. That's a terrifying world to live in, right? You are being isolated, which opens you to manipulation, right? That opens you to being um somebody can come in and tell you whatever, and as long as they can resonate with you emotionally, suddenly you're willing to believe anything because you're lonely, because you just need something to have grab onto, because you need some kind of truth, which is where you where you end up with cults, right? Be careful living a life that is just awash with constant distrust. um uh Look what the Bible says about in navigating skepticism and avoiding the traps of distrust and conspiracy thinking. So number one, God talks about discernment and testing. 1 John 4:1, beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are from God. The Christians are often accused of kind of like leaving their brain at the door, right? Like we don't really have critical thinking. We don't, you know, our sky daddy who invented everything in the world, we're anti-science and we're anti-thinking and we're anti-critical thought and we're anti, you know, everything. We're just big dumb dummies who just show up as sheep because we need some emotional help from, you know, God. And that's absolutely not true. We are informed constantly and told constantly to make sure that we keep our brains on. We test things, we judge things, we are careful with what we see and what we say, what we do. We hold it up against a higher standard. We make sure that we aren't just living as passengers in this life, but we're actively trying to seek to navigate through it in the wisest possible way. And we recognize when it comes to the spiritual realm, you know, there are people or there are beings out there that are liars. You know, the enemy is a liar and he has agents in this world. And there are people out there who live to lie. They live to manipulate. They want to take our stuff, take our joy. They feel better when we feel miserable. You know, they want our money and want our stuff, and they're willing to say whatever it takes, do whatever it takes in order to take it from us. So don't believe everything, right? Test them. We're encouraged to critically evaluate information and teachings to ensure they align with God's word. Healthy skepticism involves a willingness to seek truth through prayer, study, wise counsel, and be patient, right? So it's just check. Sometimes it's right. Okay, I'm just going to check. I'm going to go pray about that. I'm going to talk to some wise people about that. I'm going to go study about that. I'm going to go learn about that. I'm going to get some other perspectives, and then I'm going to make a decision, right? And exactly what you know, Sonic said. The don't be skeptical or gullible. They're somewhere in the middle, right? We're trying to find somewhere in the middle. 2, avoid baseless myths and speculations. 1 Timothy 4:7, have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths, rather train yourself for godliness. In that context, like you had people that were, they really liked coming up with stuff, you know, like Bible fan fiction, just everywhere. And we still have that today, right? You have the Book of Mormon, and that's Bible fan fiction. right? You have the Muslim scriptures, which is like just sort of has Bible stuff in it, but also is a lot of just made up stuff based on just falsehood. Like there is a root that is true, and then we have God's word, and then there's a lot of stuff out there that sounds good, that is it expands on the lore. You know what I mean? Like it's the appendices in Lord of the Rings, where you're like, yeah, that's kind of interesting stuff on the outside. Christianity has that too, and everybody loves, or a lot of people get sucked into wanting to talk about that stuff all the time, that conspiracies and the myths and the all that crazy stuff. Instead, what we should be doing is to push away from being distracted by these unfounded theories and myths and whatnot, wasting time and energy on those, because it'll pull us away from serving people well through our content, causing us to spread lies, cripple our spiritual growth. Right? We got to be careful about being sucked into things we want to hear because they explain things in a way that we like, even if it's not true. Some people really like a convenient lie better than a difficult truth. We don't want to be that. So train yourself to know and understand the truth. Otherwise, there's a chance you're going to be wasting time. You're going to be stop serving people, and you're going to spread lies and cripple your own individual growth because you live in the realm of myth now, not truth. Number 3, maintain a balanced skepticism. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. Proverbs 14:5. Skepticism isn't always a bad thing. I'm not anti-skeptical. I'm very much a skeptic. I have a hard time believing anybody. But you have to make a decision to choose to trust someone. But you should be skeptical. Skepticism isn't always a bad thing. Having a discerning eye or ear can save you and your followers from a lot of grief. Yes, we should be cautious and weigh what we've been told, but believing everything we read, hear, watch is just foolish. Right? I'm not anti-skepticism. The Bible isn't anti-skepticism. We should be skeptical, I'm a big believer that if somebody says something, whether it be me or anybody else, they put that eyebrow up and kind of go, I'm going to check on that. If that smells weird, that sounds weird, I haven't heard that before, I'm going to go look into that. I have it all the time. People will declare something that they believe is fact. Hey, this is the thing, I heard this is true. And I go, can you show me where you learned that? And then half the time, more often than not, they'll be like, oh, I can't find the exact link. Oh, I can't really find that on Google. I don't really know where I heard that. And it's like, well, if nobody else has said it and you just made it up, or you heard it on Reddit somewhere, or you saw it on a meme, that doesn't make it true, right? Like you're declaring truth. You're declaring this as fact. And in fact, there's no basis to it. And you're spreading that around. I'm skeptical of a lot of stuff. I think that's okay. Number 4, talking about this idea of skepticism, right? Promote peace and unity. Let us therefore make every effort to do what leads to peace and mutual edification. Romans 14:9. Christians should aim to foster peace and build unity rather than division. Diving into conspiracy theories often leads to disunity and factions, whereas focusing on the truth and being willing to listen seeks to bring clarity and harmony, right? We love, I'll go back to what I said before, and that was, we love the idea of being rebellious individuals. It's just us and God. I'm Martin Luther. I'm, John Calvin. I'm, C.S. Lewis. I'm special. I'm the only one who's saying this stuff. And so and God is working through me. And often that leads to dividing. It leads to creating factions. It creates, it's like us versus them mentality within the body of Christ. When you're listening to all these conspiracies and when you're trying to figure out, what to do, and you want to lean towards one way, you're going to be dividing yourself from another group. Now that's just going to happen. The Bible talks about how there will always be division, right? Paul says, I can't remember where, but there will always be divisions among you because some of you are going to be right and some of you are going to be wrong. It's never going to not be like that. However, recognize that as you are trying to figure out what to do with this TikTok situation, what to do with whatever future situation, that if living in the realm of conspiracy, living in the realm of trying to lies or whatever, is you are also creating division, right? You're going to create division among Christian content creators. You're going to create division among brothers and sisters. You're going to divide yourself from other people who love you, right? But because they're taking away TikTok and now they're telling me this and I'm mad at them, right? Your job here isn't to find your little cloister of people that you can believe. Your issue here is to find the best way for you to navigate this situation so that it leads to peace and mutual edification, right? How can I help the most amount of people? How can I serve the most amount of people? How can I be at peace with this? What does God want me to do here? How can I serve Christian content creators and other creators that are having a hard time navigating this? Right? I want more people to be together so that we can work on this together. Been said in marriages and friendships, that the idea is the best way to look at these troubles isn't you versus me, or husband versus wife, or friend versus friend. It's husband and wife, or friend versus friend, friend and friend versus the problem, right? It's us together versus the problem. Let's work together, right? It could be for some creators that God will use this change to move you into something new. Certainly, certainly. And if you can unite with people, you bring unity, that something new could be far more powerful than what you had before. Okay, let me end with a bit of a practical advice. What should Christian creators do? It's your content. I'm a big believer that God speaks to you. God works through you. You are unique. You're special. God has given you a unique audience, unique perspective. I believe that very strongly. So me telling you what to do, I'm just going to give you some advice. Okay, just give you some advice based on my experience, based on what I've heard, things like that. So take it as you will, but recognize that I do believe that you are if you love your people and you love God, then navigating this, you're going to work hard to navigate this in a certain way. So make sure you think about it. But here's my opinion. Number one, diversify your platform presence. So like this is something you've been told for 2 years or more. If you haven't been diversifying your content at this point, you might even be too late. You should be posting your shorts all over the place. You should be re-editing your stuff and having a presence on YouTube and on Instagram and putting things on Twitter and things like you really should have diversified content by now. If you're not, you should. Make sure you're posting to YouTube Shorts. Make sure you're creating, compilations of your stuff. Make sure you're putting things on Reels, yes, each one of these platforms has their own sort of spin, right? Facebook is not Instagram, is not TikTok, is not Twitter, is not, they're all a little different. But you as a content creator, you have a responsibility to your audience and a responsibility to your content and to your calling to try to figure out a way that you can, you're not stuck on one thing. If TikTok dies, your ministry dies. That is not how that should work. It should be you were called to communicate a message to a certain audience, and I'm going to go find that audience wherever they are. And maybe they're on YouTube, maybe they're on Instagram, maybe they're on a podcast. There are new things coming out, like Mastodon, Blue Sky. There's others. Those are the two that popped into my head, and they are emerging. They prioritize control. They're hard to grow on because they don't have crazy algorithms and they don't have a lot of that discovery stuff. Because they're designed not to do that. They're designed to be different, and so therefore they're a little harder. But if you plug away at it over a period of time, which is why you're supposed to be doing this 2 years ago, if you plug away at it, you can grow. Email lists. I know that sounds old school, but if you sign up for, say, MailChimp, or you start a blog, or you do something that is based in text, you can start telling your people on TikTok, hey, I don't know what I'm doing next, or I don't know what's going to happen next, or we're working through some stuff, but you can guaranteed find me here, so sign up for my mailing list, right? Yeah, you'll probably only get 10% conversion or whatever, or whatever the average number is, but at least then, regardless of where you go, that is a consistent thing that everybody has, is email. Right there, everybody goes to. They may not all like Twitter. They may not all like YouTube. They may not all like Instagram. They may not all like whatever, but everybody has email. So start an email list and say, hey, follow me here for more information, right? It will at least allow you to not have to worry about being discovered because it's among the people who are most passionate about your content. And then once you've got the email list and you have decided where to move and things are kind of trucking over there, you can say, "Hey, email list people, you know what? I'm over here now. Spread the word. I'm putting out content here. Tell folks, find people that have been on here before." It I know it sounds old school, but you know what? Everybody has email. Here's some things outside the box to consider. Bolster your Discord. If you have an offline community or an in-between content community, chances are it's on Discord. Spend time in there, right? Build the relationships. You should be doing this anyway as a Christian creator, but generally speaking, if you're looking to gather folks, you're trying to gather them and help them. But bolster your Discord. Spend time figuring out how to what their issues are and how you can connect with the people that are really passionate about what you do and are the real goers. Because when you do that, like say you have a following of 10,000 people and your average viewership is, I don't know, 100,000, right? Great. But you have 300 people on your Discord. Those are people that have clicked your link, went and found you, signed up for Discord, got into your Discord, and started conversations with each other, hoping to get connection to you in a different way. Those people are very interested in what you do. And they're going to be your most passionate, most helpful voices to be when you make your content conversion. Okay? Start a blog or a podcast. I know that you're like, well, I draw. Consider having a consistent place where you put your thoughts, or it can only be 5 minutes. Here's my journey. People love podcasts. Blogs are easy to put together. They're free and they're easy. That way people can have a place that's consistent, that isn't dependent on that, on TikTok, to be able to kind of go and they can follow along, and you could be a bit more personable and you can share your thoughts, share your heart. Consider starting something like that so that there's something a little bit different that isn't merely your TikToks, but is something that is going to help them get in between. Download all of your old videos and start releasing the best of on a new platform. Like, go grab however many videos you have. Go get however many you made. Then maybe it's hundreds and hundreds. Go get them. Look through the current TikTok algorithm and all your metrics and go, here's the top videos that I made. I'm going to go make a few compilations using this stuff, and I'm going to put them on YouTube. I'm going to go put them on, whatever your favorite video platform is, so that people can actually see what I'm up to. And you don't have to make new stuff. You don't have to discover and all that jazz. You just release the really good stuff on that platform that you are going to maybe make a conversion to. And then it's easier to do that than trying to create new content for them. You're just releasing the best of, and then in the background, you can be doing more and more of that, the hard stuff where you have to figure out all the hashtags and trending and words and keywords and all that jazz. Another one, use this as an excuse to partner with other creators going through the same thing. Throw it out there. Is anybody else, any TikTokers out there going through this? Anybody have any idea of what I can do? Anybody else want to help? This is a great time for people to unite. This is a great time for creators who feel like they're on their own to have a mutual enemy. Whatever your mutual enemy is, whether it be the people that are trying to shut down TikTok or TikTok themselves for screwing you over or whatever. But at least now you have an excuse to get together and be, I guess, uniquely able to find a community. That's all I'm saying. Number 2, this is going to be quick. I do encourage you to evaluate your platform's data policy, like all over the internet. What are they actually doing? Pay attention. One of the reasons that people get in trouble is because they're not paying attention. They use default passwords. They say yes to all the terms and conditions, and they don't even bother looking at them ever. They just whatever's popular and they throw it on there, and then they're suddenly in trouble. They get caught in a leak or whatever. So know what you're doing before you say yes to some stuff. Number 2, use strong, unique passwords and enable 2-factor authentication. If you're not using 2-factor authentication on everything, please do, because if you don't know what that is, that's basically whenever you punch in your password, you need to have your phone, and then your phone goes ding and it sends you a text. That way you can make sure that you have At least you have somebody has to have your phone. Is it perfect? No, they can spoof your phone or whatever, but it's way better. And there's a lot of people out there using password for password. Don't be that person. You can use a password program, right? There are a lot of password programs out there. Google Chrome has one built in where it'll suggest a strong password and then remember it for you. That way, at least you're more secure. Assuming you don't give away your Google password and it's not password and it doesn't have dual authentication, which you should. Review your privacy settings, ensure your data and your audience's data are secure. A lot of the browsers now have a little feature that literally says check my data, check where I am, check my user, check my security, and it'll go look for you. But there's also some separate websites that can actually go do that. You pay them a little bit of money and they go search the whole internet for everything about you and can shut that stuff down. Not a bad idea, especially if you're going to grow. This is partly if your intention is to grow as an influencer, then you're going to get more and more people that are going to try to harm you in this way. It's a great time to batten the hatches, right? And you know this. You end up being like Pokimane or whatever, some great big creator, and they're constantly dealing with liars and trolls and security issues and people that are trying to hack them. It just comes with the territory. So now's a good time to get your head straight around this stuff and get secure. And another one is, what apps aren't you not even using anymore, right? Like what are you on that you've given a password to that if they get hacked, they can use that to get into your other platforms. Go just remove your login, remove your account from the places you don't use anymore. Last thing, and this is a really good time for you to consider aligning your content with God's purposes. Just do an assessment of where you're at, because a lot of times you'll be on TikTok or you'll be on Shorts, you'll be on YouTube, and you'll be doing stuff, and you kind of mission drift. Right? You started with, this is my audience, this is my message, this is why I'm on here. And you started maybe grabbing trends and that kind of worked, or you started experimenting and other stuff started to work, or you started doing different things and you're a little off. This is a great time for you to ask the question, the content you're currently creating or the one you've been creating for a while, does it reflect what I believe God called me to do in the first place? Are you serving the audience God called you to serve? Are you saying the stuff that God called you to say in the first place? Maybe you've adapted for the better, right? You clarified and now you're doing something better. That's not what I'm talking about, but it's a good time to ask. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't even be on TikTok. Maybe I was kind of falling into the trap of trend chasing. Maybe I should reconsider what I'm doing and try something else. Am I engaging with my audience in meaningful ways? If TikTok is a great place where people will surf, they're just like flip, 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 flip. But they're not really engaging with you. So if you're a Christian content creator and your hope is to build a platform, build an audience so that you can build a relationship, so you can talk to them about Jesus, or you can bring them into safety, or give them some place that they can know that they are loved, are you doing that?
Congratulations, Musical Angel. You are the first person to enter the chat and have been first 2 times.
Good job, Musical Angel. Hello. Have I drifted from my original purpose? We talked about that already. And how can I use this transition to deepen my impact and strengthen my community? This is everybody's freaking out. This is going to ruin my impact and ruin my influence, and my community is going to disappear. Maybe this is a potential or a time where you can actually deepen your impact, reevaluate, and strengthen your community. Consider that. We've talked about a lot today. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you in chat live. I want to hear from you on YouTube and in the comments, and I want to hear from you. Come and talk to me. I would love to hear your perspective on this. Like I said, I'm not a big TikToker. I have some stuff on there, but I don't live in that world. So what are you thinking? What are you doing? And how are you responding? Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's chat.